He stepped back from the character that etched him into the hearts of millions. Just when audiences believed they understood Graham Wardle, he departed from Heartland, leaving a wake of curiosity and a profound legacy. What truly steered his choices? What untold stories resided behind the warm smile viewers cherished for over a decade? These are not mere celebrity factoids. These are insights that will reshape your perception of Graham and the world of Heartland. Continue listening, because the information about to unfold might permanently alter how you recall Ty Borden. Before the set lights, before the ranch gates, before Heartland blossomed into one of Canada's most treasured television sagas, Graham Wardle harbored no ambitions of fame. Truthfully, an acting career wasn't even a fleeting thought for him, which makes his narrative all the more remarkable. Unlike countless actors who dedicate years to training, navigating endless auditions, juggling service jobs, and pursuing scripts, Graham's foray into the acting world was almost serendipitous. Like a scene from a film itself, it occurred entirely by chance. He was merely a young boy accompanying his older sibling to a workshop audition in his hometown. He wasn't initially meant to audition himself. He possessed no formal resume, no specialized training, and certainly no preconceived Yet, destiny often has unforeseen methods of discovering individuals. A perceptive casting agent noticed him, invited him to participate, and in that moment, the camera embraced him. That brief, unscripted event would ignite a far more significant passion. Graham's initial venture into acting was unplanned. It was more akin to stumbling upon a door the universe had left ajar, and he simply chose to walk through it. What renders this fact so captivating isn't merely its accidental nature, but how that singular instance rapidly evolved into a substantial career, transitioning from commercials to guest appearances, and ultimately to the defining role of Ty Borden. It's challenging to envision now, but had he not attended that workshop with his sibling, had he opted to stay home that day, the iconic Ty and Amy dynamic might never have graced our screen. And perhaps that inherent spontaneity is part of what imbued his portrayal of Ty with such compelling power. He didn't enter the industry with a fervent desire for the spotlight. He lacked the typical actor's ego or manufactured polish. Instead, he brought an undeniable authenticity. Graham possessed a raw, natural presence that convinced audiences of his character because in many respects he mirrored Ty, an individual unexpectedly thrust into unfamiliar circumstances, who had to navigate his path with quiet resilience and unwavering integrity. However, that fortuitous beginning also subtly hints at a deeper aspect of Graham's persona. He doesn't rigidly adhere to the life scripts presented to him. He follows where destiny leads, even when the path forward is entirely unexpected. Just as he entered the realm of acting by a stroke of luck, he would later choose to depart from it, guided by his own principles. But more on that development will be shared later. For the present, hold on to this thought: behind the composed, steadfast demeanor of Ty Borden is a man who never initially envisioned a life in front of the camera, and perhaps that is precisely why we found it so easy to trust him. Because he wasn't endeavoring to be someone else. He was simply being profoundly real. For more than a decade, millions recognized him as Ty Borden, the introspective, compassionate ranch hand, whose evolution from a troubled youth to a steadfast husband captivated Heartland enthusiasts season after season. Yet, what many viewers remained unaware of was that the man embodying the character was concurrently cultivating a parallel existence, one entirely separate from acting, but deeply intertwined with the art of storytelling. Graham Wardle is not solely an actor. He is a filmmaker, a photographer, a writer, a genuine creative spirit who flourishes just as much behind the camera as he did in its gaze. And for those acquainted with him only as Ty, this dimension of his life might be a genuine revelation. Let's begin with his endeavors in film production. While numerous actors concentrate on enhancing their on-screen visibility, Graham found himself drawn to the intricate world behind the scenes. He pursued studies in motion picture and production at Capilano University in Vancouver, delving into the technical facets of narrative construction, lighting, framing, editing, and directing. It wasn't merely about comprehending the mechanics of filmmaking, it was about mastering the craft of creating something imbued with significance. And that is precisely what he set out to achieve. Over the years, Graham has contributed to several independent film projects, sometimes as an actor, and at other times as a producer or director. His consistent aim has been to explore narratives that provoke thought, stir emotions, and encourage questioning. This is an aspect of him that fans rarely witness, yet it underscores his profound commitment to art as a conduit for connection and self-examination. Film, however, is only one facet of his creative identity. Photography is another potent medium Graham has passionately embraced. He possesses a keen eye for capturing serene, emotionally resonant moments, sunlight filtering through foliage, wildlife in its undisturbed habitat, deserted roads extending towards distant horizons. His photography isn't ostentatious or flamboyant. It is characterized by its honesty, stillness, and deeply personal nature. He frequently shares his photographic work on social media platforms, and those who follow his endeavors can discern how his images mirror the man behind the lens, thoughtful, perceptive, and perpetually seeking beauty in the commonplace. It is within these captured moments that one can truly sense Graham's essence when the cameras are off, no scripts, no rehearsals, just fragments of authentic life, preserved in time. Then there is his writing, yet another avenue through which he has revealed his inner world to others. His book Find Your Truth is not a conventional celebrity memoir replete with industry gossip or behind-the-scenes anecdotes. Rather, it is a contemplative, almost spiritual anthology of thoughts, reflections, and photographs, entirely authored and captured by Graham himself. The book gently invites readers to pause and pose challenging questions to themselves regarding identity, purpose, truth, and the nature of change. In many respects, Find Your Truth feels like an unfiltered glimpse into his very soul. One doesn't merely read about Graham, one feels as though he is present, engaging in a profound and intimate conversation, and this quality truly distinguishes him. He doesn't create for applause or validation, he creates because it is his intrinsic way of processing and understanding the world. So why is all this pertinent to Heartland devotees? Because it provides fresh context for his eventual departure from the beloved series. For an individual who lives and breathes creative exploration, remaining confined to a single role indefinitely would have felt like erecting barriers to his personal growth. Ty was an adored character, undeniably, but Graham is a multifaceted storyteller, and acting was merely one of the languages through which he expressed himself. By stepping away from Heartland, he wasn't turning his back on his fans. He was in essence opening a new portal to other forms of expression. And if you have ever derived comfort, meaning, or inspiration from his portrayal of Ty, you are likely to discover just as much, if not more, in the diverse creative alcoves of his life. This isn't simply about a man who left a television program. This is about an artist who steadfastly followed his inner truth, even when that path necessitated walking away from something for which millions held him dear. And such a decision requires a depth of courage that no scripted narrative could ever fully encapsulate. It was the moment that left viewers utterly astounded. Season 14, Episode 1, Ty Borden, the very essence of Heartland. The character many perceived as the series' emotional bedrock, abruptly and without preamble passes away. There was no extended dramatic build-up, no protracted farewell, just a quiet, profoundly devastating conclusion. The man audiences had witnessed mature from a somewhat reckless teenager into a devoted husband and father was suddenly gone, and with his departure a fragment of the show's soul seemed to vanish as well. But what truly transpired behind this pivotal decision? Why did Graham Wardle opt to leave a role that had brought him widespread recognition, affection, and a distinguished place in television history? The explanation isn't straightforward, but it is deeply human and relatable. Graham has consistently been a reserved individual. Even during his tenure as Ty, he never fully embraced the conventional celebrity lifestyle. Consequently, when he resolved to step away from Heartland, his decision wasn't fueled by scandal or interpersonal conflict. It stemmed from something far more personal and intrinsic, a commitment to growth. In various interviews, Graham disclosed that he began to sense an internal shift during the show's later season. An undeniable force was pulling him in a new direction, a quiet inner prompting signaling that it was time for him to evolve. He characterized this feeling as a spiritual calling, an imperative need to detach from what was comfortable and familiar and to courageously venture into the unknown. Such a decision is invariably fraught with difficulty. For Graham, it entailed letting go of a character he cherished, parting from a cast and crew he regarded as family, and yes, releasing the audience that had steadfastly supported him for nearly 14. Yet sometimes the most arduous choices are the very ones that guide us toward our truest selves. He wasn't actively pursuing another acting role, he wasn't strategizing a move to Hollywood. Instead, he was choosing something exceptionally rare within the entertainment industry: authentic. He aspired to lead a life guided by profound purpose rather than fleeting popularity. This necessitated stepping back from the limelight of the screen and bravely stepping forward into uncharted territory. What ensued was a period of deep reflection and personal reinvention. Graham launched his podcast, Time Has Come, which rapidly evolved into a sanctuary for candid conversations about growth, fear, transformation, and the pursuit of truth. It was as if he had transitioned from delivering scripted lines on a television set to speaking directly and unreservedly from his heart. He invited guests who had themselves made bold, life-altering decisions, individuals who had walked away from established careers, relationships, and old identities in their quest for something more genuine and fulfilling. In every episode, a consistent thematic undercurrent is palpable: the importance of listening to one's intuition, honoring one's truth, and embracing discomfort as a catalyst for profound transformation. This is potent material, and it's not merely theoretical discourse, it is precisely what Graham himself had enacted in his own life. Departing from Heartland wasn't just a calculated career adjustment, it was a decision rooted in the very essence of his soul, and he has never once characterized it as walking away from something. Instead, he consistently speaks of it as walking towards something more meaningful, more intrinsically aligned with the person he had become. This, however, doesn't imply the process was devoid of pain. Graham has openly acknowledged missing his castmates, the supportive community they had formed, and the devoted fans. He has spoken about the emotional gravity of filming Ty's final scenes, recounting how surreal it felt to bid farewell to a character that had been such an integral part of his identity for so long. He too experienced the loss profound, and in that shared space of grief between the actor and his audience, something truly uncommon occurred. Fans didn't disengage or turn away, instead they leaned in, eager to understand, and gradually understanding began to dawn. Because the underlying truth is that even though Ty Borden died, Graham Wardle didn't vanish. He simply altered his course and continued to evolve. And for those willing to accompany him on his journey beyond Heartland, what they have discovered is a version of Graham that is, in many ways, even more inspiring than the beloved character he portrayed. He imparted a valuable lesson through his departure, something often overlooked: that growth can indeed be a painful process, that saying goodbye is inherently difficult, but that the courage to follow one's truth, even when it causes heartache, is one of the most beautiful and commendable acts of all. There exists an aspect of Graham Wardle that most Heartland viewers never witnessed on their screens, a dimension that doesn't neatly fit within a character's narrative arc or a pre-written script. It isn't centered on horses, heartbreak, or the rhythms of ranch life. It revolves around something deeper, quieter, a profound internal exploration that commenced long before Ty Borden's fictional demise and has persisted long thereafter. This is about spirituality, not organized religion or rigid doctrine, but a deeply personal odyssey of awakening and self-discovery. Graham's quest for truth, meaning, and purpose didn't originate with his decision to leave Heartland. It began with that quiet, persistent inner voice that gently questioned, "Is this truly all there?" And that introspective question became the unwavering compass guiding all his subsequent endeavors. He has spoken with candor about experiencing a distinct pull, a kind of intuitive knowing that signaled it was time for him to depart from the show. Initially, he attempted to disregard it. After all, why willingly walk away from success, stability, and a role deeply adored by fans? Yet the more he endeavored to silence that inner voice, the more insistent it became. That is the inherent nature of spiritual callings. They are unconcerned with contractual obligations or comfort zones. Their sole allegiance is to truth. And so Graham ultimately listened. He made the exceptionally brave choice that few individuals in his esteemed position would dare to contemplate. He stepped away from everything familiar and secure. He did so not because he possessed a meticulously crafted plan, but because he harbored an unshakable faith in something larger than a career, in growth, in change, in what he often refers to as the unfolding. This is the true essence of his podcast. Time has come. It transcends mere celebrity interviews or generic life advice. It serves as a living, breathing journal of his own ongoing spiritual journey. In each episode, Graham delves into the kind of profound conversations that most people tend to shy away from. Conversations about pain, identity, ego, transformation, and the immense courage required to break free from the life that others may expect of you. He discusses concepts like shadow work, the act of surrender, and the challenging dark nights of the soul that compel individuals to question their entire existence. And throughout all these explorations, he remains remarkably grounded, humble, and transparently honest. He doesn't feign to possess all the answers. Instead, what he offers is his authentic presence, a genuine willingness to ask difficult questions, and to sit patiently with uncomfortable truth. This is precisely what makes his voice so exceptionally rare in a contemporary world often obsessed with quick fixes and curated highlight reels. Graham isn't interested in pretending that everything is perfectly fine. He is far more intrigued by what happens when it isn't, and by who we become when we cease running from that discomfort. What is even more remarkable is the subtle yet consistent way this spiritual dimension has always been intricately woven into his work. Reflect on Ty Borden's character, the manner in which he grappled with loss, with his identity, with the arduous search for peace amidst chaos. It wasn't merely skilled acting, it was deeply personal. Graham infused his own ongoing search for meaning directly into the role, whether audiences consciously perceived it or not. And now he brings that same profound energy into every endeavor he undertakes. His photography, his writing, his podcast, and even his interactions with his appreciative fans. It is all fundamentally rooted in the same core intention: to live with unwavering honesty and to gently help others do likewise. For Graham, success isn't gauged by the number of followers or film credits accrued. It is measured by presence, by alignment, by whether or not he is living a life that feels authentically real, even if that path entails risk. This iteration of him, the seeker, the guide, the thoughtful question asker, isn't merely interesting, it is profoundly powerful because it demonstrates that even those individuals whom we often place on pedestals grapple with finding their unique place in the world. It serves as a poignant reminder that the universal search for meaning isn't exclusively reserved for monks or spiritual gurus. It can be found in actors, in ranch hands, in podcasts, and indeed within each of us. So yes, Graham Wardle departed from Heartland, but what he courageously walked into was something far more enduring, a path illuminated by purpose, a life characterized by depth. And through his voice, his art, and his probing questions, he extends an invitation to the rest of us, to introspectively ask, what truth am I currently avoiding, and what might happen if I finally chose to follow? It has been a number of years since Ty Borden last rode across our screens, since he murmured something tender to Amy, or smiled with that distinctively quiet, wounded charm that endeared him to millions. Yet even now, long after his character's poignant final scene, Graham Wardle's presence continues to resonate not only in the hearts of devoted Heartland fans, but also within the very energy of the show itself. And this enduring resonance is no mere accident, because Graham didn't just portray a character, he meticulously crafted and left behind a significant legacy. What imbues that legacy with such profound power is its unexpectedly human quality. In a world where actors often appear distant or untouchable, Graham remained someone to whom people could genuinely relate. He was never ostentatious, never aloof. Fans saw reflections of their own journeys in his portrayal. They observed him grow, make mistakes, love with deep intensity, and confront profound loss. And when he made the difficult choice to leave Heartland, they didn't merely lose a character, they lost a mirror to their own lives and experiences. But something truly remarkable transpired in the wake of his departure. Instead of fading into obscurity, the connection between Graham and his fans actually deepened. people began to explore the multifaceted individual he truly was. They discovered his evocative photography, haunting images of untamed landscapes and serene, quiet places. They picked up his insightful book, Find Your Truth, and quickly realized it was far more than just a collection of words. It was a veritable roadmap to living more intentionally and consciously. They tuned into his podcast and heard a man candidly wrestling with the same universal questions that so many of us carry silently within. Who am I really? What is truly worth holding on to? What am I genuinely afraid to let go of? This wasn't a celebrity desperately attempting to maintain relevance. This was an individual earnestly striving to remain authentic, and his vulnerability, his courageous willingness to show up without a script, forged a different, more profound kind of bond, one that doesn't simply dissipate when the credits roll. In fact, this is a significant part of what makes Graham's story so exceptionally. Most actors are primarily remembered for their on-screen achievements. Graham, however, is remembered as much for how he made people feel off-screen, for demonstrating that it's permissible to change, acceptable to step away, and perfectly okay not to possess all the answers. His departure from Heartland wasn't a disappearance, it was a profound transformation, and fans continued to follow his journey, not out of obligation, but because they were genuinely compelled to do so. Even the show itself, in its subsequent seasons, continues to subtly echo his enduring impact. Amy's journey through grief, the palpable empty spaces on the ranch, the poignant way life inexorably moves forward even when someone integral is missing. It all feels like an implicit tribute to Ty, but it also serves as a tribute to Graham, to the void he left, and to what he so powerfully represented: love, growth, stillness, and strength. That is precisely why his story holds such significance, not merely because he was a fan favorite or because he was instrumental in making Heartland the show it became, but because he unequivocally proved that walking away doesn't necessarily equate to losing everything. Sometimes it is the very process through which we discover what truly and profoundly matters, and that perhaps is the final surprising truth about Graham Wardle. He didn't remain in the spotlight to be constantly seen. He intentionally stepped into the shadows to remain true to himself, and in doing so, he bestowed upon his fans something even more valuable than Ty Borden's narrative arc. He gave them implicit permission to evolve, to change direction, to courageously follow their own truth, even when it hurts, even when it's incredibly hard. Maybe that is why he continues to captivate us. Because deep down, we are all in our own ways, attempting to do what he did, to be brave enough to release the things that no longer serve our highest good, and to walk confidently towards the life that patiently awaits us, one quiet, deliberate step at a time. If you've journeyed this far, now you understand. Graham Wardle isn't just an actor who skillfully portrayed Ty Borden. He is a storyteller, a seeker, and a living reminder that the most crucial and transformative journey we will ever undertake is the one inward, towards self-discovery and authenticity. When an actor departs from a long-running series, it typically signifies the end of a chapter. For some, it can even mark the fading of their visibility within the industry. But for Graham Wardle, stepping away from Heartland was not an ending. It was in fact a quiet and profound beginning. What is most astonishing isn't just the sheer depth of his personal journey, it's how deeply and continuously his choice has impacted his fans. Not just for a fleeting week or a single season, but enduring. People didn't merely watch Heartland, they grew up alongside it, leaning on its familiar comfort during challenging times. For many, the show transcended mere entertainment. It became a source of solace, and at the very heart of that comfort was Ty Borden, representing stability, redemption, enduring love, and unwavering hope. When Graham chose to walk away from that iconic role, it resonated deeply with people, not because they felt abandoned, but because they grasped something vital. Even those we admire most are entitled to grow and evolve. That realization fundamentally changed many fans, and it continues to do so. Following his departure, thousands began to explore his creative work beyond the television screen. Some discovered his photography and were profoundly moved by the raw, unfiltered emotion conveyed in his shots.
sunsets over desolate roads, still lakes mirroring overcast skies, faces illuminated by soft natural light. They perceived in his images something rarely encountered in mainstream celebrity culture: genuine presence, profound stillness, and unvarnished honesty. Others found his podcast, Time Has Come, and found themselves consistently returning, week after week, not due to sensational guests or viral content, but because they felt genuinely understood. Graham wasn't preaching or pretending to possess all the answers. He was posing real, relatable questions. What does it truly mean to trust your intuition? How do we navigate the grief associated with outgrowing versions of ourselves? Can we lead a meaningful life without knowing precisely where it's headed? These questions, delivered in his calm, grounded voice, achieved something remarkable. They granted people permission to slow down, to reflect, to rethink their own life choices, and most importantly, to understand that leaving something familiar behind doesn't inherently mean you are lost. Sometimes it is the very act that allows you to be found. And this is where Graham's influence reaches its most unexpected and significant zenith. He didn't just alter the show, he profoundly impacted its audience. Fans began courageously sharing their own stories, narratives of transition, of heartbreak, of choosing uncertain paths in steadfast pursuit of their truth. In online forums, comment sections, podcast reviews, and even heartfelt handwritten letters, they expressed their gratitude, not just for his portrayal of Ty, but for reminding them that true courage often manifests when no one is watching. They recognized that bravery isn't always about heroically running into danger. Sometimes, it's about quietly walking away from what no longer feels right, even if the world around doesn't immediately understand. And even more impressively, he listened. Graham is known for personally responding to fans, reading their messages, and genuinely engaging with the people who follow his journey, not out of a sense of obligation, but from a place of sincere gratitude. Because he doesn't perceive himself as being above them, he sees himself as one among them. This profound level of humility, particularly in someone who has achieved such widespread success, is a crucial part of what keeps his legacy vibrant and alive. He doesn't actively chase relevance or market himself for attention. He simply shows up in his work, in his words, in his silence with unwavering integrity, and that authenticity is exceptionally rare. Even the Heartland cast and crew have openly acknowledged his lasting and positive influence. In interviews and behind-the-scenes footage, you'll frequently hear them speak of him, not merely as a colleague, but as a cherished member of their extended family. His presence on set was renowned for being steady, respectful, and deeply thoughtful. He brought not only warmth to the role of Ty, but also to the people surrounding him. And that particular energy, that calm and grounded nature, left an indelible imprint that the show continues to carry with it today. So where does that leave Heartland in the absence of Ty Borden? Surprisingly, the show continues to evolve and thrive. It explores themes of grief, healing, and personal growth in a manner that respectfully honors Ty's memory, without attempting to replace his irreplaceable presence. It allows Amy to navigate life after profound loss in a way that is honest, sometimes painful, but ultimately empowering for her character and for the audience. And behind all of that narrative development lies Graham's subtle but palpable influence. It's discernible in the way the show now allocates more space for emotional nuance, in its slower, more reflective scenes, and in the way characters are permitted to simply be, without constant dramatic impetus. His departure in a way compelled the show to mature, and in doing so, it arguably became even more real, because that is the nature of grief. It doesn't conclude stories, it deepens them. And so even if Graham Wardle never graces the screen again as Ty, even if Ty remains a cherished memory, the impact endures, not just on the storyline of Heartland, but profoundly on the audience, who witnessed a man